I'm back. So this, I wanted to make two separate videos because I didn't want to confuse the two topics here. This next topic I wanted to talk about is, I love it how every time I start a live video, Kira, you come up. You gonna come up? I wanted to talk about the importance of connecting your past lives and your collecting your soul pieces and your missions and how this all connects. So when was that? Here, can you come down so I can look at things, please? No? Here. Okay, so January, February, March, April of this year, April 2019, I had a automatic writing session with one of my guides, and Kira, you're not helping. And we were talking back and forth. Hey, Michelle. We were talking back and forth, and we kind of hit on a lot of subjects. But one of the questions that I asked was about why is it really important to share these insights, like share this information, share the downloads and stuff that we as a collective are getting. Why is it really important to connect history? Why is it important to talk about past experiences, to talk about how you're working through past experiences, those things? Because I was kind of started at a point where I was not quite understanding the connection between working on your past experiences, bringing those pieces that need to be healed into the now. And I understand it, like I understood it on a personal level, why you would do that personally, because it needs to happen. And that's what I'm going to talk to you guys about. But I didn't understand why it needed to be talked about publicly. Past experiences in this life too, yeah, totally. Any past experience. And so my labels are a little different than normal labels. When I refer to past experiences, I'm referring to any past experience on any timeline. So that includes past lives, past experiences on this timeline. And the reason that I do that is because once we understand that time is not linear, there's no such thing as a past. So it's easier to understand when I talk about it in past lives, but I really want to try and make the connection for you guys. Instead of relying on old labels, I want to start trying to use the new terminology that I'm learning. And so we can kind of keep things straight. So, okay. All right. So my question was, let's see, that, some of these things I want to talk about, but the stuff that I really wanted to talk about maybe wasn't safe to talk about. And that's a whole nother program for a different time. And I said, I don't really think it's important that people know that I share my experiences with people so they learn who I am. Like, that's not important. I need to learn who I am, but like other people don't need to know that, right? And so I said, why is that so important for people to share their experiences and share what they're learning about themselves and all that stuff? So this is what my guide said. He said, it's important in the long run because now it may seem silly and discrediting to wanting people to take you seriously. But years from now, Miss Historian, which I thought was really funny, he said, people and humans will need to see the connections of the past to the present. They need to do that by looking at those people of the past and realizing that they are all experiences of those who are living in the present. So if that makes sense, he's basically saying that when people start realizing how time actually works, they're going to start connecting souls to souls and souls to energy. And they're going to start realizing that the people from our past are now, and, those past memories can be accessed and past history can be accessed and such and such. So that's what he's talking about. So let's see, he said it will give them a much more concise history of the planet, but that is more for later. The learning is important to share because it is all new information that has been forgotten, and it will help people understand themselves. And this is the part that really took me for a ride. He said, people need to fully understand themselves before real growth on this planet can happen. And so I took that idea of people need to start understanding themselves before real growth can happen, and I kind of just sat with it for a while, and then I just tossed it aside. I was like, well, whatever, like, people need to work on themselves. I get it. It's not rocket science, right? But there's more to it than that. And this is what I just learned, and this is what I want to share with you. So when I met Cosmic Christie, who's super awesome. So if you haven't checked out her channel, you need to check out her channel. She's so cool because she's on a different level than I am. And so with her world and my world combined together, we can really get a lot of things done, and we can really delve into all kinds of stuff and explain it from many different viewpoints, which I think is really fascinating. So while talking to her, this finally dawned on me as to why it was really important. And my guide was like, bingo, like, you get it. So, okay. So one of the things Cosmic Christie talks about is she talks about erasing timelines, okay? Or like disintegrating timelines. I'm not quite sure how she puts it. But it kind of bothered me because, like, my whole deal is, as like a galactic historian, is to make sure that the records of the Earth, because we do, in a galactic perspective, there is galactic historians out there that do have the history of the planet written down, because as this planet changes, they will talk about this for other planets and stuff that are going through the same thing. So there is a concise history that's being written down. So I thought, well, what is she talking about, erasing those timelines? And I'm going back in these timelines, and I'm setting the timeline straight. What's the deal with that? Like, how does this all combine? I didn't get it at first. So this is what I figured out after a couple days. This is what I figured out. So one of my jobs is to go into the timeline and get the correct record of what really happened, right? In that now, in that moment. All right. So then that is what's written down for the galactic historians. And that's the end of my job. Okay, so your job is to go in and to work on yourselves and change those. Because once you change those, then as you grow, as you heal those timelines that are affecting you from your previous experiences, that wipes that portion out. That wipes that portion of that timeline out, which clears it. So it's all about clearing timelines, which actually moves the planet along faster on the vibrational journey, the new path that it's on, and moves you faster, because working on yourself, fixing those soul pieces, those pieces that of you that are left over from past experiences that have really rocked your world or have been really traumatic, that's what's holding you back. Okay, so let me put this in a different perspective, just so we all understand this. So let's use this past life. This is the past experience of my own. So there was a time in, like, I don't know, like 1500s Renaissance-y, that, yes, okay, yes. So Making It Happen has a question. Is that about the Akashic record you're talking about? Yes, it's about the Akashic records, but that's only a small fraction. It actually goes above and beyond the Akashic records. So, because the reason is because the Akashic records are a library of everything that you personally do, okay, that I personally do. And so it houses our feelings, it houses our soul memory, it houses our problems that we have in those past experiences. So going back in to fix that fixes the Akashic records, but on a bigger scale, on a macro scale, there's a set above that. That is like, I'm going to explain it on small scale. So if I was a Palladian up in my ship, right? Because the Palladians are very invested in having this planet move along and move to the next phase and have everybody be happy and and ascend and all that stuff, right? So I would be like the record keeper up in that spaceship, keeping a record of like things that actually happened before you guys go in and change all that. And so there's like a hierarchy. So you can call it the Akashic records, but there's a step above that that is like more. But it works on the same locale as the Akashic records. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well. Okay, so where was I? Okay, so if I in this past Renaissance life, okay, I was like a poor, starving little girl. I was a poor, starving little girl. Okay. And I carried that over into this life because it hadn't been healed for whatever reason. So when I would go to the grocery store, you guys have all heard this already. When I go to the grocery store, I would get all kinds of veg, right? Fruit and veg, mostly veg. And I couldn't possibly use it in the time, and it would always go bad. So what I did is I went back and I fixed that soul piece that was hurting, that was missing, that was incomplete. Okay, so by fixing that soul piece, what I did, and basically I laid down and I meditated and I let my soul memory take me back to that place, closed my eyes, and I saw this little girl. And I just talked to her, and I was like, I know you're hungry, I know you're starving, I know you're really sad. You know, I want to say that I'm you and I love you. And if you allow yourself to come to me, I will never let you go hungry again. Okay. So she did. She came into me. As we hugged, like she melded into me. So that was achievement unlocked. That was a soul piece that was put together. So what does that soul piece mean on the bigger scale of things? That means that if somebody would time travel, okay, back to that moment, to that now, that child is no longer starving. That's what that means. So I changed that historical timeline. Timelines are never set because time is not a set thing. It's a malleable thing. And so this is how it disappears. So that girl is no longer there. It will never bother me again in any of my incarnations, that problem, because that is a healed problem, which in turn changed that specific timeline. Okay, which means that if that doesn't affect that timeline anymore, think of it in like an energy, a wavelength of energy. How now that little girl is not starving, right? Starving down here, not very high energy. Not starving up here, very good energy, right? So you can see how that changes the planet. Now, if you extrapolate that onto a bigger scale, and if we could get all of the Earth's people, or as many people as we can, to actually start to recognize their past lives, their past experiences, and start working through them and collecting those soul pieces, that's what changes the timelines. Once those timelines are all changed and everything is happy-go-lucky, not only does that change that timeline, but that changes our current timeline, our current self, and we get to move faster along. And so that is what my guide is saying when he is saying that, well, when he's saying that, it's important to like talk about your experiences because it will help other people. And in the future, people are going to connect through energy and understand that those past people are here. Get it? So like, because I am that girl, I'm that starving girl, but I'm no longer starving, but I'm here right now because I embody all that. And then also when he's talking about how real growth on the planet can't happen until people fully understand themselves. So I finally connected it all. It makes sense. Oh, right. I hope it makes sense for you guys. So the next question then, how do you experience your, okay, so Making It Happen with Love and Light wants to know, how do you experience your past lives or connect to them? Okay, so this is a really great question. The first thing you have to do is, number one, like let's start at the beginning. You have to be open to the possibility of, hey, time's not linear. I probably have experienced past lives or past experiences. Once you open yourself up to that, then you have to open yourself up to following or recognizing flags, recognizing thoughts that keep repeating, recognizing things that as a kid or as an adult you were fascinated with. So like not everybody is fascinated with history. I get it. But there are probably things that people might be fascinated with and don't even really understand it. So let's just take something simple like I have always been fascinated and enjoyed sewing. Okay, and not just sewing. Like I don't sew from a pattern. I have to drape, which means like putting it on a dress form and like working with the flow of the fabric and draping the fabric and pinning it, things like that. So that's something that I really, really enjoy. So you start with something small like that, okay? And then you look for the next piece of the puzzle. Okay, so I enjoy sewing. Now what? So then you say, okay, so because it's a historical thing for me, I would say, what do I like sewing the most? Like what period in history am I really fascinated with, just either looking at their clothing or looking at, pieces in the museum? What period am I really fascinated with? So then I would go to that period. And then I would say, oh, wow. So I'm really fascinated with, colonial times. Why am I fascinated with colonial times? So then I would learn some things about colonial. Am I drawn to Americas? Am I drawn to Europe? Like where am I drawn to? Oh, like I really find Russia fascinating. Okay, well, that's really strange. Like, let's go to Russia. So do you know what I mean? Like you have to work your way back. And the only way you can do it is to keep an open mind and not assume that everything is just random. You have to kind of assume that once it's the right time, things will be put in front of you. So here's another example. It doesn't always work in the time allotted that you would like it to work in. So I'm going to use my own experience instead of my client. So my client actually just had an experience. My recent client had an experience too, but I'm not going to use hers. I'll use my own. So when I was little, when I was in high school, I had always been fascinated with Egypt, right? No big surprise. When I was in grade school, I taught my friends how to write in like general Egyptian hieroglyphics so we could pass notes back and forth. So if the teacher found them, he would have no idea like what they were saying. All right. So in high school, I got onto other things. And the Egyptian stuff it was kind of there, but not really. Like I really was into like high school things. Like, I liked drama and I liked fast pitch, sports and stuff. But my grandparents took me to an Egyptian exhibition. So an exhibition is in a museum, but it moves to different museums where an exhibit is stationary in that museum. So they took me to an Egyptian exhibition and they just let me loose. They let me like do whatever I wanted to do. So somehow I ended up in this tomb, and at the time I thought it was like the coolest thing ever because I could like feel the dirt. Like I reached down and there was like dirt there, right? And I looked at the ceiling and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. I can smell it. I can smell the smells. And I met my grandparents and I was like, hey, did you guys go into this tomb? Because it's so crazy. It's so real. And they're like, no, there's like, we didn't even see that. I don't think that exists. So we asked one of the employees, and they're like, no, like we don't have anything like that. So like that should have rang a bell to me, really. That should have been like, oh, light bulb, what's that all about? But it didn't, because it wasn't the right time. But years later, like 30 some years later, I'm looking through an Egyptian book and I see that ceiling. And I'm like, holy crap, wait a minute, I had an experience with that, you know, and then I started putting the pieces together, and then I found this whole new other life that I had. And so it's just a matter of paying attention to things that are going on, paying attention to things that you love, paying attention to things you have problems with. So, you know, I had a problem. I had a problem with like worrying about not having enough food, and I did that a lot. Like even not just in the supermarket, but if we were out to eat, I don't do that anymore because I healed that portion. But like if we were out to eat, I would take other people's leftovers home because I just never knew. I was like, oh my God, what if I run out of food? Like that would be a bad thing. And so, but then like I would never eat the leftovers in the time because I have food. I'm not like starving in this lifetime. And so it was just something that had always been with me until I figured out what it was and I was able to fix it. So it's things like that that will help you guys put the pieces together. And you can always ask me, like, that's what I do. I mean, I do a lot of things, but like I have the unique ability where like everybody has their own things that make them tick, and everybody has their own gifts that make them awesome, right? Like my gifts aren't going to be like your gifts, and that's a cool thing. I wouldn't expect that. Your gifts are just as awesome as my gifts. There's no like scale here as to whose gifts are better. So the one gift that I have that I'm able to do is, if like for my clients and stuff, I'm able to jump to that specific timeline. Not everybody can jump to timelines. So like if you would go to like an Akashic Records reader, past life reader, they would get pictures or signs, and then they have to interpret it. They have to, it's got to filter through their brain, and they have to come up with that past life from what their guides and their teams are showing them, right? The difference with me is that instead of having like symbols and whatever come to me like bits and pieces, I can just shut my eyes. I don't actually have to shut my eyes a lot of times. In my mind's eye and my third eye, I can just jump to that timeline and be and watch. I can just watch what's going on. And so it's like that's one of my cool abilities that I'm able to do. Now, like, do I just randomly jump to different timelines because it's fun? No, because it is kind of exhausting. Like it takes a lot of energy to do that. And so just because I can do that doesn't mean like I'm doing it just for fun, you know, you know? But like, I don't know, that it's just something cool that I'm able to do. But I think this is a really important piece. And so when people say, well, it's really dumb to like explore your past lives or your past experiences, like that's dumb because you don't need to live those experiences in the now. You need to focus on the now. Well, my retort for that would be, if you have a problem that's affecting your now, say like you want to get pregnant and you can't get pregnant, but yet the doctors say everything like is good to go, that might be a problem that is connected to a past experience or past life, that if you could heal that problem, you could maybe get pregnant, right? So like that's just a really random experience. But it's like everything is so, I think when people start realizing that it's good to live in the now, but that the now is still connected to all those different timelines, you are connected regardless of how people see themselves, and everybody sees themselves differently. You're connected to all the other yous that are concurrently going on in different timelines. So some of those yous you may not have pulled forward to help you within, this timeline, but some of them you're more connected to than others, And so I had an experience once. This is really funny. Well, I find it funny. So when I was talking to Ramses, he told me once, he said, remember, he said, it's not just what you do in the now. He said, things that you do on astral, and like sometimes I'm really good at knowing exactly what I'm doing in astral, and sometimes I have no idea. All my other selves have to take care of that. Everything is connected to the whole, and so you can't assume that like what you're doing now isn't affecting the other yous, and it's vice versa, which when you put it together makes total sense, right? I mean, the other yous are still affecting you in this now. They're affecting you on a scale of 1 to 10 as far as what you brought forward in this now moment to deal with, right? So what I'm saying by that is, if I had been, when I was dealing with the food thing, right? That weighed more heavily. That was like a 10 in that moment, in that now. It was weighing more heavily than like me dealing with Egyptian stuff at that moment, which was like a 1 on my scale. But it was still there. It was just some things were brought closer in the now than other things. But now that is gone, now something else can come in, or maybe, just maybe, I've like worked on this stuff and I don't have anything more coming in because I keep working on it. I mean, I always have more stuff coming in, but you know what I'm trying to say? Like the more you clear, the clearer you will be. Like everybody talks about, how do I hear my team? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do you connect? Well, part of it is working on yourself, and it may not be like meditation. Like I personally suck like at meditation. My meditation is not a normal meditation, and that's okay. Like everybody's going to have their own sense of what is meditating, but it helps when you can clear those pieces that are affecting you away. So you're probably saying, well, how does this help with my mission? Okay. So many of your missions, many of you have multiple missions. Okay. The first and foremost mission that you all have here on Earth is to hold love and light for the planet. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are what I call ground crew, okay? That's our job. Like I'm ground crew, that's our job. Our job is to hold pillars of light, okay? Number 1. How do we do that? Well, we do it in the way that we look at the world, right? The glass is neither really half full nor empty. It's just a glass full of stuff, and we understand that there's like good and bad, but like that's a really 3D concept, good and bad. So being in that middle helps us hold the light. Now that's not saying don't deal with your crap. Like you need to deal with your crap. And so it's not always unicorns and butterflies, right? Like we're still humans, we're still in human bodies. So we have to take time out and deal with our crap. But our light becomes stronger when we clear things from our past experiences. Our light becomes stronger, we become stronger. So we become better light keepers, okay? And what I mean by light keepers is that light that we're holding, if you can like picture like a pillar of bright light, that light holds massive updated vibrations for the planet, okay? That light is what is canceling all these programs, all these old matrices, things like that, like making it easy and simple. That light is contributing to that light that we're holding. When we're helping heal each other, when we're helping with telling each other our experiences, telling each other how we solve them, not that you have to solve them that way, but that is how we solve them. It makes us a stronger unit. It makes us a stronger light holding unit. And the more that we can get to hold the light with the higher vibration, the quicker we can move things along. with this planet. Now, I kind of picture like these past timelines before they get dissolved and changed and everybody gets really happy and like it's all good, right? Love and light on these timelines. If you look at, let's see, here I go again with like my, okay, so these are old timelines. These are past lives, right? This black right here is our current now. So we can only go as fast, if you're thinking of like physics, I think it's physics, as this allows us to propel, right? Because we have a lot of weight under us, a lot of like not so great vibrational weight, because a lot of people have to get their shit together and work on themselves. So let's just say everybody got together and made huge strides with this timeline. They worked on themselves. This timeline, yes, quantum physics, thank you, which goes back, kind of, sort of, to my new terminology that they gave me called quantum solar exchange. That's what's happening right now. Check out the other video and you guys will know more about it. Okay, so let's say this is our timeline, current timeline, but we can only move so fast. So here we are, we're vibrating, we're the Earth. We're trying to change, but like it's hard. The Earth can't really blossom into the butterfly that she wants to because we have a lot of like weight holding us down, right? But let's say people actually get their act together and this timeline, they solved a lot of stuff. Like everybody got together and solved crap on this timeline. And now this timeline has totally changed. And it is all light and unicorns and whatever, right? Okay, so now this one goes up here. And we have this extra one. And now it's getting pulled up faster. Or we can even like toss this one out because it doesn't exist. And now because we only have 3, we can move along a lot faster because we don't have that resistance. Does that make sense? So that is pretty much my spiel for today about why it's important to recognize your past experiences, recognize if you're having problems on this now. And then if you guys can't really figure out like exactly how to work it out, you know, get with somebody, have them help you. You guys can always ask me, you know, like it's cool. And yes, just start working on your stuff. And as you work on your stuff, the lighter you'll become, and the wiser you will get, the stronger your light beam is going to be. And then the other missions, other than like holding love and light, are obviously just to be the best you that you can be. And this goes in with everything we've been talking about. It's not about changing, it's not about forcing a change on somebody else, because in reality you can't force people to change, right? It's about working on you. Once you make it about working on you, be the best you that you can be, which means, you know, seeing that people just have different thought processes, helping the lady across the street, picking up the litter crap that you see, feeling the energy, giving blessings where blessings are needed. You become more in tune with how you function, but more importantly, who you are. That's when those past timelines or the past lives come through for you guys. And the more past lives the more past experiences that come up for you guys, once you're in a position to really focus on them and realize what they are, you know, like that moves the whole planet along. So everybody wants these big missions. Like, I don't even know what a big mission is. I think a lot of people think that that their missions are going to be like this big, massive solo thing. And it's not about that. It's about coming together as a collective and healing yourself. And through that is the big change. That is what this is all about. So, do you guys have any questions on my ramblings for now? I'm more than happy to to help clarify things or answer questions. Yeah. If you guys are wanting to get in touch with your like astral self, your try to go to bed and like remember, like jump in to some of your past timelines. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn off all your cell phones. Turn off anything that's got blue lights, red lights, anything that's got waves that are coming at you that you may not realize. Turn it all off. Get it out of your room. Turn it off. I just read a scientific article maybe a week or so ago about how new studies have come forth about how the blue light, you don't really see it on your phones and on your computer screen, is actually rewiring and affecting the brain and the body. And so it's serious. It's serious. Like we have to take this stuff very, very seriously. So get that crap out of your rooms. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to like sit with yourself in your room or in the place that you cleared out that doesn't have any of this crap in it. And I personally like light candles because I just always have since I was little. I think it kind of brings me in touch with that vibration of, you know, in past timelines, maybe electricity wasn't there. So plus it gives the room a sort of ambiance that it's a very homey feeling for me personally. And then I'm able to just sit with myself, just turn my brain off from the day, which I think for a lot of us is a really hard thing to do. But if you can connect on something like connect on that, you know, for myself, it would have been connecting with that Egyptian ceiling in that tomb. That can give you something to think about then that can change the way your brain is wired for that moment. And you can kind of start writing things down, stuff that kind of comes to you. Okay, Michelle says, what did you say to get out of your rooms? Everybody sleeps with their cell phones. Cell phones have to go. You can't use those as alarms. Even like the old digital clocks that have the light, those have to go. If this is going to sound ridiculous, like coming from a historian, I suppose maybe not. The alarms that you guys should be using, if you need alarms, would be like the old-fashioned ones that you have to wind the clock. Those are the ones you should be using. Anything that gives off any sort of waves, it needs to go. Anything that gives us any sort of light needs to go. So yeah, okay. So you get rid of that. You sit with yourself. You think of something that struck you today, right? Like you kept seeing the number 111. So you write that down in your journal. Today I kept seeing the number 111. And then you spend some time alone and you're like, hey, guides, team, I'd like to get to know you better. This is the perfect opportunity to come in because I don't have any of those extra crappy waves like filtering in my brain right now. So now would be a really good time for you guys to show me a sign or whatever and start talking to them that way. And then, yes, use crystals. Yes. Okay. So, and then the one thing I do sleep with in my room is a lot of kyanite. Kyanite will also help you navigate astrally. And you just need to be careful in the astral world because it's like for those who like it's new territory, it's very exciting. But just make sure when you do that before you go to bed, and you're like, hey guys, I would love to jump into a past timeline, one of my lives that I need help with. When you wake up, write down whatever you can remember. If you can't remember it before you go to bed, just keep telling yourself, I'm going to remember my dream. I'm going to remember my dream. Keep saying it over and over and over. And then when you fall asleep, that'll be the last thing in your brain and it'll help you remember. Write down whatever you can remember in the mornings and it will get better. You just got to keep going with it. It's like a process. You can't just, if you're not familiar with it, you can't just jump into it. It's a process. So you need patience to deal with that. If you change a timeline, how does that affect your family members? It doesn't, because okay, so like, how can I explain this? The timeline only affects you, and this is why. Okay, so the idea of ghosts, right? I'm just gonna like throw this out there because I think this is the easiest way to explain this. It's not like it's not like me as a starving child disappeared from that timeline. My soul connection to that child broke. That line that connected us broke. So in my new timeline, that child is not starving. But in somebody else's timeline, that child, whoever sees her on the street, would still be starving. But now it's like, it's not connected to you. It's like an empty ghost. But they see it as a real thing. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly. But so the short answer is, it doesn't really affect your family members like that, like a physical affecting. The more you work on yourself, it can affect family members in this now, because as you change and other people don't change around you, you have to be true to yourself. But as far as that goes, it's more like a ghost of the girl that was starving is still there, but it's like not connected to anything. It's just a hologram. That's a good way to put it, a hologram. So other people will see her as alive and starving, but there's nothing to connect her to anywhere. It's just a hollow hologram until everybody gets their crap done. When everybody gets their crap done, then that timeline can completely disappear. But like, think about it. It takes a lot of work from us here in this now to actually move an entire timeline. And most people don't even know that they're dealing with past lives in the present to even think about working on their timelines. So hopefully that helps. If it doesn't, let me know, and I will try to come up with a different way of explaining it. Because you have to remember, everybody sees things differently. So my mother would totally not see or experience things the way I do. So that too. Yes. Okay. Yes. Hi, Val. How are you doing? I love astral traveling. I love timeline jumping, but I like timeline jumping better when I'm like working with a client and I can see what's actually going on, or I'm in the astral because I'm sleeping and I'm timeline jumping into another me on a different timeline, which can also be like other planetary timelines as well. So I talked about the last astral jump that I remember. If I hadn't talked about it, we can talk about it, but I think I did, where, and I was working. So it's not like fun. Like, I don't get to just jump because it's fun. It doesn't really work that way. Like, I'm jumping because I'm on a mission, or I'm jumping because I'm working on someone's past experience, things like that. But I jumped into this timeline, which was another me. So I just went into that me body, right? And we did talk about this because Cosmic Christie was on there, but I'll go over it really quick. So normally when I time jump, it's like the soul that jumps, right? So it's like you don't carry physical things with you, but I did. Somehow I did. I'm not exactly sure how, but I carried a shoe with me. And this, when I looked around and I was in one of my other me's, it was like a desert area, but there was a tree. So it was very confusing. There was like a canvas tent, but it was honeycomb shaped. Also very confusing because I didn't know. So when this happens and I'm aware that I jumped, because I'm aware that I'm sleeping, but then I'm now in a different me on a different timeline, I try to first do like the W's, what, when, where, why, things like that. So when I first come to, it's like the movie Avatar, where you just like jump in to your other self. It's exactly like that. I try to figure out right away, am I on an Earth timeline? Am I on a different planetary timeline? What clothes are they wearing? Things like that. And so I can make mental notes. So when I wake up, I can write it down in my journals real quick. And the gentleman who walked up to me, like he had some sort of skirt thing on. Like skirt is not a good way to describe it, but it was kind of like an Egyptian Sumerian thing, but like I wasn't really sure what it was. And he didn't have a shirt on at all, and he was very muscular and very nice looking. And the first thing, it seemed like he had known me or he knew me, and so he grabbed my arm and we were walking. And it wasn't like a I haven't seen you in a long time. It was like a why are you here? Let me get you into the tent. It's not safe type of thing. And the first thing he noticed was he noticed I brought that one white shoe. I don't even have a pair of white shoes. And he looked at it and he said, "This will not do. This is like machine made, or this is." I don't remember what his exact words, but he threw it over his shoulder, and and so then like we were talking, and there was an entrance that we walked in, and it was like this honeycomb canvas tent, and there was a door going out, and there was a bed over on this side, and it was very bare. It was like a big bare kind of circle room, but there was a cage of 2 rabbits on one side and a cage of 2 ducks on the other side. They were like large cages. I assumed they were food. That's just kind of the feeling I got. Anyway, so we were talking business and contracts and stuff like that, and which I didn't remember actually until Cousin Christy jumped in there and joined me and was like, "I know exactly what you're talking about." So anyway, we got up on the bed and we were like kneeling, and I was like looking at him because he was kind of beautiful, and then all of a sudden, like because it was windy and it was kind of it wasn't rainy, but I thought maybe it could rain, it could storm. And it got really quiet. Something spooked the animals, and he threw me down in the bed as like a protection thing. And he goes like, what did he say? Not quiet. I can't think of the word. It was like a different type of putting languages together. But then that's when I realized, because I was laying there, he had his hand like pushing at my shoulder if I was laying on my side. And that's when I realized that I'm in 2 places at once, because I'm conscious of my body sleeping in my 3D self, and I am like on this bed right now being held, told to be quiet because we're not sure what's happening, if it's like an ambush or whatever's going on. And that's when I didn't freak out, but like my human body freaks out. And I hate this when this happens because my heart pounds so fast and you get thrown back into your 3D body, and it's really painful because all of a sudden you start functioning, like your insides are starting to like make up for lost time, even though there is no lost time. It's just a really bizarre thing, and my heart was like beating so fast and so big. But yes, so keeping a journal really helps, because when I look back at that and I'm piecing things together, that's how I've pieced together some of my past experiences, because there's no way that had I not kept a journal, I would be able to figure that all out. My involvement with the SSP program, there is no way that I would have retained that much secret information if I hadn't coded it in my book without knowing I was coding it, including like times. So I knew exactly when I was jumping and when I was in service. Just crazy. So you keep journals. My long story short is keep journals. It will help. So yeah, I mean, other than that, yeah, it totally sucks when you get like jolted back into your third body. I hate that. I absolutely hate that feeling. Like now, I think when you first experience it, you freak out because you don't quite know what's going on. But when you figure it out, you just kind of lay there. You open your eyes, you lay there, and then you have to tell your body to just calm down. You're back in your 3D self. You're absolutely fine. But when you're not aware that that's happening, it is kind of really freaky the first few times. So, okay. Anything else, guys? Okay. Well, I'm going to close this session then with a light language blessing, because light language blessings are always good. English language blessings, whatever blessing you have in your language is always good for the planet, for its people. And then we will bid you farewell. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. What did you say the vertigo was when you asked them? Oh, so that's a good question, Val. When I asked, well, let's back up. When I got the vertigo, I just knew that, like, when you're experiencing something new for the first time, and you're hooked up. Hooked up's probably not the best word, but like you have bizarre experiences through your whole life, so you start asking yourself questions right away, like, is this a normal human thing? Is there something else going on? What's actually happening? And so when I finally was able to get the vertigo fixed, and I asked them what was going on, and I got a scan done, galactic scan. I actually had they were going to work on removing it, but I had something up in that area that causes the vertigo, and so it was basically told to me that, I mean, I kind of knew it. I knew what it was before they told me. It just took me a little bit to put two and two together. But basically, it was a memory lock, so no more of my SSP memories could come through. And the reason for that being is because some of the people in the SSP program, we all have, it's pretty much like a secret planetary, I don't know how to explain this. It's like, it's sort of like a military type thing, right? So in a military situation, everybody has ranks, okay? So the specific rank that I had, because I was born into it, and this is not taking place on the 3D, by the way, this is the 4D. This is different than the 3D, but it travels over into your 4D because they can take your actual 3D body at night. It's ridiculous. But I don't even know where I was going with this. Oh, but yes. So the reason is because I have a higher rank in there, because I was born into it. I mean, that's why, like, all my family members have been adopted. So I had a daughter in the program, and she has been adopted. My mother was adopted. And it's not even like, they don't do this anymore. They don't, the way I was in the program, I was a test tube baby, which just seems absolutely ridiculous. But what they do is they take like a mother and father. You have to be of the okayed, like, DNA lines. There's good lines and bad lines in this world. And then they insert extra galactic DNA. And so they don't do that anymore in that way. They don't raise them in the, like, if you've ever seen the movie, it's a Ewan McGregor movie. I can't think of what it is, but they like raise them in these sacks, these like artificial sacks, which is like a boom. That's how I was. And it took me over 30 years to like finally get the whole story straight. So, but again, that's in 4D, and those memories though are still in me because those two bodies are connected, and they don't want those coming forward because they don't want me spilling any of the classified information. But like, when you talk about those things, who believes you anyway, right? Like, people come with all this crazy information all the time, and normally they just get thrown aside, and they're like, most people are like, that's just too ridiculous. We don't even believe that. But the fact that they're actually scared that I could say something and spill all kinds of classified information is pretty awesome, I guess. Although I'm actually I've been thinking about flipping this on edge, because I have options with this, right? So the number one option is to just come clean and say everything that I remember and talk about the famous people who are also in the program, and talk about all the experiences that I've had, and all the names and all that stuff. Or Or I could keep my mouth shut and I could put 1 or 2 videos out so you guys can learn to recognize when you're in this program. Or I could use all this information that I have and I could make a deal with them. And I could make a deal saying that if I promise to keep my mouth shut, it's like a contract, it's like big contractual stuff, it's not really a deal. If I promise to keep my mouth shut, forget that I know all this information, never speak about it, I would want them to, I haven't made this deal yet, but I've been thinking about it. I would want them to remove all the AI and all the, what do you call that? All the attachments and all the chips from the twin. Not that I want to get together with the twin because that's not the deal, but I want him to be able to live a normal life and not be walking around like a zombie and not have them be able to control him. So that is also something I've been thinking about. So does it have, is RH negative part? Yeah, you, Red Skywalker, that's probably a really good, that's probably a big red flag that you were in a program. Now, when I talk about the SSP program, one of my friends asked me, who's also in the program, asked me the other day, what am I exactly referring to when I talk about the SSP program? When I was in the program, and like, it's so weird because you do so many time jumps. There's only a few of us who are capable of time jumping, and so they use that. Like they look for specific DNA qualities. It doesn't necessarily have to do with Rh negative blood. There's a lot of cool things hidden in all the different blood lines. Like it's not just about Rh negative, although that's the one that always gets the attention. But they look for things that you can do. Like, okay, so I didn't think we were going to get on this subject. This is so crazy. So you know all those movies that are coming out right now, right? All the Avenger movies and the Marvel movies. We just watched this really cool one the other day on Netflix that is called The Umbrella Academy. So watch it because it was pretty cool. All these things coming out, it's not a coincidence. Like that's the other thing. Once you guys realize that everything's sort of tied together, you can figure it out. It's not a coincidence that these movies are coming out. That's all super soldier stuff. Super soldier stuff is actually many different programs isn't really the word, but programs that you can get put into, and it all depends on your ability to be structured in a specific way they want you to be structured. It all depends on your DNA. It all depends on your DNA. It depends on your innate abilities. Like they know not just your normal DNA, but they know your galactic DNA. Through you, they can access your past timelines. So it's all these different programs. SSP refers to Super Soldier Program. When I was in the program, that also fell under the Secret Space Program. That was also a subsection of the Secret Space Program, but it is not anymore. So the reason those Marvel movies are coming out right now is because we've gotten very clever about how we're getting this information into the public. People are understanding this now, and just like you, Red Skywalker, you're like, wow, some of these things are clicking. And so they're human. The people in the human people in the program, their numbers are getting a little low, and so they want to boost everybody. They want to boost everybody up by like showing you guys how cool these Avengers are and how cool the Marvel people are, and all that is just super soldier stuff in the 4D. And it's been really hard for me because I didn't actually know. I mean, other than finding out all this information, I didn't know anything about Marvel or Avengers. I didn't know anything about that. And then my husband is like, "You're never going to guess this. You got to learn about some of this stuff." And instead of him teaching me, I was teaching him on something I had never seen before. And so it's been kind of crazy. And some of this, some of the scenes from some of those movies that he likes to watch, like I just can't watch. It just makes me sick. So it's a lot of healing for myself, having to heal from the bottom up, once realizing how your whole life fits together. But I got to figure out kind of what I want to do with the information that I have. And so I don't, the one person, I can't think of her name now, but if you type in Super Soldier Program, Penny Bradley, I friended her. Actually, a friend of mine introduced me to her, and she is she's actually still in the program, which is actually kind of creepy, because she shouldn't be in the program. It's kind of weird to be in the program and then be like discussing the program, and the fact that she's still alive is kind of strange. But when I met her, she told me right away, she said, like, everything is bugged, just so you know. And I'm like, okay, like, they check up on me all the time, so it's not that big of a deal. But at the same time, I didn't really feel comfortable talking with her, because there was some like red flags for me. So it's like this battle, because you want to get information out, but you yourself need to be safe. Like, all her whole family members have been picked off around her, and that's serious. Like, I don't know. It's very complicated. So I appreciate you guys asking the information. Maybe it's something like, when I decide what I want to do, if you actually want to hear about this crazy stuff, we can maybe have like a question answer session versus me just like giving random information, because but so Red Skywalker, if you start to look into it, this goes really well with the past life thing, and because this, even though this isn't a past timeline of mine, which is concurrent with this now timeline, but it's on a different timeline. Does that make sense? So it affects me in this now because I'm aware of it, but it's actually on a different dimension. It's in the fourth dimension. But the difference is that they actually take this 3D body when they need you for a mission that they don't have a clone for, when you're sleeping. And because time can be reset, because time is malleable, they will regress you, put you back. And so unless you're really smart, you would have no idea you were missing. And that's how the fourth and the third overlap when you're in a situation like this. But what I was going to say was that once you're aware that you're in one of these programs, you've already broken the code of having you in that program, because that's what they don't want your 3D aware of it. But once you're aware, you can break all that program coding, and then when you remember, when you can tie the two together, tie yourself in that 4D when you're like serving, you can ask for early leave, or you can ask for retirement, or whatever. Like, you can make them aware that you're done, because they can't. So the whole way this works is I can't believe we're doing this. They court. So in the 4D, they court who they want. If you're not born into the program like I was, they court who they want, and they will. You have to sign a contract and everything. They will make it appear as though like you're doing like really amazing things for the world, right? And that's how a lot of us get like sucked into doing it, because we're like, oh, let's heal the world, let's help the world, let's fight the bad guys, like whatever, right? And so they like court you, and they make you like sign. You're like in the program. It's kind of confusing, but some people don't have that ability to sign or like agree to be in the program. It's a very manipulated thing. So like, they think that you're doing all these amazing things, but they don't really have control over you, because you're smarter. Like, once you get your act together in the 3D and the 4D, and you can connect the two, you don't have to let them take you, type of thing. You can say that you're done. Like, you're done. You figured it out. You figured out the game. You're done. So now that you kind of have that going, Red Skywalker, you can keep going with it. And I did put together a top 10 list, 15 list of of possibilities or red flags that you may be in a program. And I haven't done that because, like I said, I don't know what to do, but I put together like a top 10 list for that. But you would have to have like 4 or more of them. It's not like just because you have one, you don't want to be in the program. Let's just put it that way. It's not something that's cool. Like, you don't want to be in the program. I put together that list, and I put together I think it's like a top 20 list that you may be love bitten. And so, like, if you guys have twin flames out there, you may be love bitten, and that's a whole nother program. And on the easiest to understand level, we have programs all around us, right? I mean, watching TV, they're programming our brain. Okay, when we need to have a specific name brand, like it's a program. There's all these programs, and so we're breaking these programs down one by one. And as you start breaking down these programs, they get more complicated. And so, even though even though it may seem absolutely positively ridiculous, like this woman is crack, right? The more you see things that are done in this world as what you're being programmed to do, to think, to blah, 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 you will look at those programs and you'll say, oh, this is a program. This is an old program, and I'm done with this program. And you will just break that code and you'll be done with that program. And so there's more complicated programs. There's very simple programs. Television is a very simple program. Twin flames, more complex of a program. SSP, more complex of a program. How do we find out more about twin flames? Does everyone have a twin flame? This is like the hot topic, twin flames. I think that everybody has, where should I put this? The reason it's hard for me to answer this is because if you would ask somebody who doesn't view it connected with programs or connected with the Super Soldier program, they could answer your questions in a totally different fashion. They would say, oh yes, everybody has a twin flame. It's the other half of your soul. I can only tell you from my experience. So I think that regardless of whatever label people like to put on things, I think that you can have people, you can have like a twin or somebody that's very close to you in the same genetic makeup, in the same soul that you have. So how should I say this? So okay, and I know that because regardless of my twin and I being chipped, being put together with this love bite, we would have had a connection regardless. We would have had a twin type, although it probably would have been more like a soulmate, because twin flames, it's a very complicated relationship. Soulmates, nice relationship, very even keel, like, you just have fun and you love each other. Twin, not so much. It's a very complicated thing. So you almost want like a soulmate versus a twin flame. And so we would have been bonded together in a specific essence, which is, in essence, is not necessarily a soul thing. It's just a part of your soul, but it's like the part of your soul that goes with you through every single incarnation, right? It's your essence. It's like my trait characteristics of who I am at the core does not change, no matter how many lives I've had, no matter who I've been, guy, girl, like, it is what it is, right? So my twin and I have a very similar to same essence, regardless if we were chipped. And yes, everybody has, okay, so soulmates are like friends, family, lovers. Soulmates are like your soul family, but just people that you've had really close experiences with. So That's like a big soulmate is a small term for like your big soul family that you've had either husband, wife, brother, sister, but many, many times over. And so the thing with twin flames and why I hate that term is because people want to believe that it is your soul. It is a piece of you and a piece of your twin sharing the same soul. So in the Super Soldier program, they do this. This is how a twin flame is bonded. It's not a natural, magical thing that happens. It's a very physical thing where they lay you on the table, they take bits of you and bits of him, and they swap them together. And so you guys are bonded because you're now sharing the same pieces of each other. And not only that, you are also put in extreme conditions together. And so you get bonded through torture, you get bonded through other ways. So I really feel like this whole twin flame thing is not quite what a lot of people want to put it. A lot of people want to talk about it as. Like, it's great if the twins are open on the 3D and like able to connect. It's amazing, and I've been there. Like, I know it's amazing. But the reason they keep running away from each other is all programs, and it's a lot more complicated than that. And I'm sorry I can't make it more simple at this moment. But if you're going to shoot for something, shoot for a soulmate. Don't shoot for a twin flame. I'll just say it that way. I think that's probably the easiest way to put it at this time. But if you've actually tuned into this channel, then you guys are ahead of a lot of people in kind of understanding how things work, or at least you're open to understanding different aspects of how people assume things work versus how the core levels of them kind of work, and they get, manipulated or changed into something that they're really not. So, so with that said, you guys have been so awesome. We have been talking for over an hour. That's really cool. Okay, any more questions? Am I RH negative? So the short, I don't think I am. Here's why. My blood type has changed over the years. Okay, so in my baby books, my blood type is not listed. When I used to give blood, it used to be B positive. But now that I'm aware, because we're always changing, blood type can change with you. People are going to start seeing this blood type change. I don't know if it's still B positive or what. I refuse to, this is going to sound ridiculous, I kind of refuse to give any sort of blood anywhere. So I can't be of help with you there. As soon as I figured out what was going on, not that it matters, because I have like 3 clones of me in that program, in that 4D program. And so it's not like they don't have what they want. Like, I'm all on file already, but just for like the updated stuff, I refuse to have anything to do with giving blood. Not because I don't want to help people. It's a little bit deeper than that. So. From what I've been told, her question, Making It Happen's question was, does O positive ever change? From what I've been told is the old constructs of having a blood type throughout your whole life is changing. For some people, it may not change their whole life, but for other people who are actively getting updated and working on themselves and incorporating all this stuff, that it can change. It can change. So for the majority of the population, though, I'm guessing that their blood type probably won't change for quite a while. That's like if you have a galactic scan done, And you want to say, hey, what is my current, because it's always changing, what is my current galactic DNA percentages? Depending on the group that you have scanned, that you have yourself scanned with, they will all be different, because everybody's technology reads things a little differently, and the Palladians would be different than the El Yaha, and the El Yaha would be, different than, I don't know. So it's all, you kind of got to take that stuff with a grain of salt, because things are changing so fast for some people and not enough for other people, What if one of your parents was Rh negative, but you were O positive, for example? Does that mean anything? I really don't know. I mean, I really don't know, because Cosmic Christie knows way more about the blood stuff than I know. For a while, I was really fascinated with it, and I started to learn a lot about the different types, and like how your body fares better if you eat for a certain blood type of thing. But that was so long ago. I'm sorry, I can't answer your question. Cosmic Christie could answer your question, though. She has figured out all these different things to do with blood types. Who does the galactic scans? So depending on who I ask, like my teams do galactic scans. Yeah, like when in doubt, I call in an Arcturian medical ship, because they can help with things. Like because I'm more on the galactic side of things, like I'm still human, don't get me wrong, but I can function well in like galactic stuff. I'm able to get scans. If I don't do it myself, if I really need to, like if I'm having a serious medical issue or whatever, or I need a scan done, and I don't have the ability to like focus and get the information with my own team, sometimes I've had the channeler Jim Charles do them, because he's really good. He's able to access some of the really good galactic beings who are more there. Like every galactic group has their own thing, right? A group like El Yaha, they're there because they want to help heal things, and so like they're really good with scans. The Arcturian, there's like an Arcturian medical ship that's all they do. They just do medical stuff. They're really good for scans. But like even if you guys are feeling low, if you're feeling like, especially with all these energies coming in with the quantum solar exchange, you guys can talk to your guides, even if you don't think they're hearing you. Say out loud, say in your brain, just say, guys, like, can I be put on the waiting list to get into one of the Palladian healing pools or one of the Palladian crystal tables? Like they'll get you in the list, and they'll do that for you. It's just stuff we don't realize that's happening here in the 3D, because a lot of us are so 3D minded yet. So my Reiki master was overloaded with my energy. Yeah, that can help, especially if you're like some of the Reiki masters. And I know this because I was told this a couple of times by different people. Some of the Reiki masters have to do a different type of Reiki on those who are more galactic. There is like, I don't know what label they gave it, if they call it like galactic Reiki or something like that. But was overjoyed with my energy. Okay. Well, I'm gonna finish my thing anyway. So some of the more galactic people have to have a different type of Reiki. Like normal human Reiki won't quite do it. And I think they gave the term galactic Reiki. So there's different types of Reiki. So like if you're Reiki practitioner, if you know that you're more galactic and your Reiki practitioner can't attune you quite in the way that they would like, you'd have to seek out a galactic Reiki healer. And I know that there's more of them coming to the surface now. So, but that's really awesome if your Reiki master was overjoyed with your energy. Yeah, Sandra, you should get in touch with Cosmic Christie and give her that question. Just say that Temple wasn't able to answer it, and she pointed me to you, and she would probably be able to help you. So, okay, so you guys have been really awesome. I'm going to give you guys a blessing for the weekend, for you guys to help with these energies that are coming in and the new energy waves that our body is incorporating that we've never had to incorporate before. So Mushataya saki uno to bojatai ki alo no kai ko ono sho. Ko ai anak ko ono to. Ki ala aka ono ko dia taka anati. Tia ko ulong ko onati ka anaka. Ko ulo ko anaka au ko ubosha. Nati aka anadiata. Kuka ala ako ona taka ai ana o dia a. Kia ko ulo o ya ana aya. Diana siata aya o biata. Gashia to miasa. Naka ala ua ko ona tiata ka ono taya. Nahalaniata. Nasiata. Namaste. Blessings to all you guys. Go out there, be your awesome selves, work on yourself the best you can, and just know that you don't always have to be doing something amazing. Like just working on yourself is amazing enough. And working on yourself is healing way more than you guys could ever think is healing. Okay? So take care, you guys. If you guys have questions or are struggling with something, feel free to pop me an email either at yourtemplebeautiful at yourtemplebeautiful at Yahoo. No, I lied. yourtemplebeautiful@gmail.com, or we have a Your Temple Beautiful Facebook page, which I totally never update. But if you guys need to send me like emails or whatever through there, feel free to do that. Okay. So have a great weekend, you guys. Take care.